excited to have a conversation with Ash Ambirge. And the distinction here is that she is the only person whose emails I always read. Okay, so this means something amazing. Ash is the author of the new book. I'm so excited. The Middle Finger Project, and the blog and website of that name as well. And she just is a powerhouse. Just so much fun. And if you're an entrepreneur or a freelancer or whatever, you're going to want to get yourself a copy of this book. And if you have never seen her website, you're missing out, because it's all things writing copy, imposter syndrome, you name it, it's in there. Client contracts, all the things you should have in place if you're working for yourself, but you don't have in place yet because you just didn't know. And she makes it all really interesting and fun too, you know, with words like douchebag and stuff like that, which you keep you like, oh man, you're allowed to say when you're talking business. Yeah, so we're gonna have a fun time here. Anything else I should say about you before we get started, going in whatever direction we go?
No, I mean, no, this is the best part about publishing a book, is all the nice things people say about me. I'm like, wow, thank you.
Well, welcome to the show, Ash. Thanks for being here with me.
Thank you so much, Kathy.
You're perfect. You're doing great. All right. We hear you everywhere. It's fine. So I was reading your book, and some of this I knew and some of it I didn't. Like, you basically landed after your mom died. You were young. You were with this kind of ass of a guy, and you landed yourself in a Kmart parking lot with like $26. Is this true?
This is so true.
So you're in a Kmart parking lot and you heard something about like Rihanna taking pre-orders or something like that for a CD, and all of a sudden you were like, oh, I have ideas. I can take pre-orders. I can make some money. And just took off from there to create a $1 million+ business.
Yes, it's happened. It's true. Yes, my story is very unconventional. I've had a very unconventional background, but one thing I have learned to do very well is sell my ideas. Yes. Yeah. What do you want to know?
Which is amazing and so important, because one of the things I want to hear about, because I hear from so many people and it drives me nuts. They've learned skill after skill after skill, and they're like, oh, but I need the next certification. I need something else in order to be good enough, in order to, you know, contribute to people and their lives and stuff. And I'm like, no, you don't. You just need to get out there and push yourself out there before you feel ready. Because the next certification is not going to make you feel ready. Yeah, even though you think it will.
It's a thing we do. It's right. It's a self-defense mechanism, thinking that if we get the certification, we'll be great. But while you're spending the next 2 years of your life trying to get a certification, someone else out there has gotten started and they're learning on the job. And those are the dangerous people, because they're scrappy and they get out there, and 2 years later, you've got a certification and they've got experience.
Yeah, so tell me more about that. I mean, being in a Kmart parking lot and like, oh, I have ideas.
Yeah. Well, you know, something that I had the great benefit of having was a career in advertising sales prior to this. So I understood selling, and I also understood making offers to people. And that is something that I have done consistently every day of my life ever since. I've gotten really good at making offers to other people, because selling for me is not selling. It's all about helping. It's all about helping. So when I was in this Kmart parking lot, I've got $26. I have no more credit. I've got $26 and I've got no more credit to my name. And I've got effectively no family either. So it's not like I could go home to mom and dad's basement. And that was the moment when I realized I didn't have maybe family jewels. I didn't have bonds to sell. I couldn't even sell my car because it was upside down in the loan. But what I did have was an idea. And that is so valuable. It's intellectual property. We don't think about our own ideas as intellectual property or in any kind of marketplace that we could actually sell them. But they are very real and they're very valuable. So that's what I did. I took an idea that I had and I made an offer to the world and I said, hey, here's what I'm really good at. I'm really good at writing. Can I help you? And it's as simple as doing that and showing up every single day and doing it over and over again.
And from that offer to your list, and you had a list by that point because you had a blog, and you made $2,000 from that offer. And I can just imagine your mind being blown, like, oh my God, I just, I had $26 and now I've made my offer and now people actually bid, right? I remember myself pricing a course for like $347 or something, and people paid that, and me being like, they did? They actually paid that? What, like, really? From me? Like, and so tell us a little bit of how you marketed that, because I think I hear from a lot of people about, well, I don't want to be a salesperson. I don't want to be sleazy. I'm afraid, like, we have so much fear about putting ourselves out there and being like, here's the thing. Or maybe we put it out there, but we put it out there like twice. Like, okay, here's the thing.
Don't bother anybody, right?
Totally get that. Yeah.
Yes. So selling, when you do it the right way, it's a form of leadership. And normally that is the case. You set out to sell an idea or something that you have for sale, and you need to go and beg people to buy it. Like, that's kind of the thing. Like, you need to go out and say, okay, like, buy my thing, because no one knows who you are yet. And you're kind of just in that position. But there's another way to do this, and that is by taking a different approach and standing up. And instead of looking at it like you're a freelancer and now you're an order taker and you're waiting to try to sell something to somebody, stand up and be an advisor instead. Create online, put something together that represents your ideas and your best work, your talents and your skills all in one place. Have the courage to say out loud, here's what I think. Here's what I think. Oh no.
We're good.
Are we good?
We're good. Yeah, I hear ya.
Okay, good. Oh my. I've been on podcasts all day and this is the first time this is happening. I'm like, oh. Yes, having the courage to do that, because what happens is other people see that. They see you being a leader in your field and they want a part of that. So then they approach you, and you don't have to do so much of this hard selling where you feel like you're constantly begging people. It's a completely different way. I mean, in the marketing field, they would call this the difference between inbound marketing and outbound marketing. And it's been the thing that has absolutely propelled my entire career forward.
Well, I'd like to hear more about that. And I just want to bring it to what you said in the book. And you said, like, imagine Brad Pitt, like, does this great movie, and then he just doesn't tell you about it. You don't know about it. Like, even he has to advertise.
Right.
I thought that was brilliant.
Thank you. When you think about it like that, it's like, gosh, it would be ridiculous if Brad Pitt made a movie and didn't tell anybody about it. It would be so silly. Instead, we see him out there and he's excited and he's giving interviews and he's making a ruckus and this is the day and here's the countdown and here's when it comes out. But when it comes to our own work, we do the opposite. We don't want to bother people. We don't want to be a nag. We're kind of shy about it. We don't want to seem self-important. And so we kind of just assume, well, like the right people will show up when they do, kind of a thing. Can you imagine if Brad Pitt's movie was playing at like this like no-name theater in the middle of Kansas and nobody knew about it, and then the people in charge were like, oh, but like they're gonna come. It wouldn't work. So you have to assume that people are so happy to hear from you, because if your favorite artist releases a new album, or your favorite, I don't know, store has a new line of clothing, Target comes out with a new collaboration, you're thrilled to hear about it. You're like, ooh, that's going to be so good. I can't wait to buy it. Your favorite author comes out with a new book. None of us are bothered by that. We're thrilled. And so I think adopting that posture is so important for your business overall and your mental sanity as you try to sell stuff to people. People really are happy that you're showing up to help them, because if anyone ever showed up and offered to solve all of your problems, would you be mad about it or happy? You'd be thrilled.
So yeah, absolutely. And then it's like, where does this piece about I don't feel like I'm ready come into this, and how do you jump over that so that you can show up and offer people something?
Yeah, I mean, if you feel like you're not ready, I mean, the reality is you may not be ready. If I tried to go into roofing right now and go build someone's roof, I probably wouldn't be ready. Let's be honest. I probably don't have any qualifications or any idea of what I'm doing. But it's usually
in your book, you have a great story about roofing tiles.
It's top of mind. Yeah, it's top of mind because we've been talking about it. But like, gosh, that's usually not the case with people. It's usually not the fact that they're like, I'm going to, become like a Buddhist today, but I don't know anything about it. No, most people actually have been learning, and they do have some level of experience, even if it's just something that they've been working on in their own, free time at home, and they're really good at it. They've got skills, but they don't have the piece of paper. They don't have the qualification that tells them that they're ready, and that is where we start to stumble. But I would advise you to play along and do a little thought exercise, which is, if you were actually to enter a courtroom today, and there's a judge sitting there in front of you, and on one side, you've got you, the prosecution, arguing against yourself. I'm not ready. Don't put me in the ring. I'm not qualified. I'm a total loser. I mean, like, whatever you're thinking to yourself, you've got you saying that on one side. And then on the other side, though, you've got the evidence. And the judge is looking at the evidence of everything that you've accomplished, the things that you've done, the hard things you've achieved, the thank you notes that you've gotten from people, the compliments, the ways you've helped other people, all of the things that have come together in your life to make you you. And he's going to look at that evidence, or she, and they're going to be like, sorry, get in the ring. You are absolutely competent and capable. You can't argue with the evidence, but none of us are able to see ourselves objectively, and that's really where it gets sticky.
I love that. I love that exercise. A lot of times we go into the what ifs. They're all bad what ifs, right? What if people realize I don't know what I'm talking about? What if no one comes? What if? And we don't actually have that, like, what if it's amazing? What if I can help a lot of people? What if it's so much fun for me? What if, it's like, no, we kind of like roll in all the yuck and the fears and stuff like that.
Yes, so I talk a lot about this idea of, if you are afraid to be seen, you don't do things worth looking at on purpose. So much of this is about internal self-esteem and self-confidence, to put something out there and trust that you will be well received and your brilliance will be well received. And it's profound to me, because there's no other job on the planet that requires you to love yourself so much. But when you are putting yourself out there and becoming something new and trying your hand at something that you've never done before, whatever that is, you gotta love yourself to do it. And it's the only job with that requirement.
That's pretty amazing. And you have some fun stories about working for other people in your book. Yeah.
And maybe sometimes when you're doing that, you don't really love yourself that much because tell you what, the things we do for $1, it's insane. You rent out your week, your life, your every single hour to somebody else you've never even met.
So true. And kind of sad, really, if it's really not fulfilling. So
yes. This is a very real emergency. It's not, most people are like, I've got time, but make no mistake, lack of purpose is a very real emergency.
We're going to be right back. And when we are, I'd love to talk to you about niching, about pricing, and all sorts of fun things about working for yourself. Thanks for listening, everyone. Sexy Mom Abundant Life will be right back. Welcome back to Sexy Mom Abundant Life, everyone. This is Kathy Williams, and I'm talking today with Ash Ambirge. She is the author of The Middle Finger Project and the website and blog of the same name. And like I said earlier, she's the person with the distinction of writing the only emails I pretty much always open because they're funny, engaging, interesting, and usually have some information that's useful for me. So if you're not on her email list already, you just might like to be. And you can find out more at themiddlefingerproject.com. If you want to talk with me, I'm always available at meetkathywilliams.com. I love to have your ideas for guests and your ideas for shows. And that's also where you can get in touch and have a private session or join one of the upcoming classes. And currently we have bar classes online and yoga and bar in Hawaii on Maui, and also some writing classes coming up, which I'm super excited about to do again, because people always have lots of ahas and insights and like, whoa, I actually can write something good. So imagine that. You can. I know you can. It's in you somewhere. And Ash, so I wanted to talk with you a little bit about writing, because I know you identify as a writer, and lots of people would like to be writers. And they, I think a lot of times that gets really pushed to the side as if it's not a valuable activity.
Ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah. Oh, listen, I'm a huge advocate for writers right now, especially because I don't think any writers realize that they're pretty much poised to take over the world. The internet runs on words. Like, this was never a thing before, but now every single business in the world needs one of you. And
yay!
Right, like this was not a thing before. It was like, oh, you're going to be a writer, so you're going to be a struggling novelist. That is no longer the definition. It's a very narrow definition. So listen, if this is something you're considering, please go forth. You can make more money than ever being a writer right now. I've discovered that on my own. But I really think that at the end of the day, one of the reasons why I was successful with this is because I didn't keep my writing to myself. And I didn't write kind of in the shadows and then put it in a desk drawer and leave it there. I was writing very publicly. I've been doing it for 11 years now, every single week, never missed a week. I mean, just doing it, right? My whole life now. And that has been the reason why, even if I wasn't getting paid directly to put my ideas out there, it's the reason why I've been able to have people coming to me and asking me if I want to do this. Do I want to go speak here? Do I want to write for them? My literary agent found me through my writing. Acquisitions editor at Penguin Random House, before she even knew that I was represented, found me directly through my writing. So this is very much about having the personal agency to be proactive enough to just go start. If you want to write, just go write. You're already a writer.
That's beautiful. A beautiful invitation. And a couple of things you mentioned, you'll make more money. And I just kind of got the sense of a lot of people going like, I don't even know what I would charge for my writing. Like I could charge for that, or that's even a possibility for me. And I know pricing is a thing that a lot of people have hangups about.
Yes. Well, there's a couple of things here. I have something called the hot dog theory of money, because so many people, we don't like to take. Taking feels really icky for us no matter what we're taking, but taking money in particular feels like we are now taking some child's lunch money from a mother or a father, right? And so when I talk about the hot dog theory of money, I talk about, like, if you were this vendor on the Jersey Shore selling hot dogs and someone asked you, hey, how much does a hot dog cost? You're going to say $2.75, and you're not going to feel bad about it. You're not going to hem and haw about it. You're not going to have this narrative around it. But when it comes to selling yourself and your own services, of course, it goes back to that self-esteem piece and how much are you worth and what do we charge for that? Honestly, this is something that it's never written in stone. It's all dependent upon context, who you're talking to, what the thing that you're writing for them is, how much of a learning curve is going to be involved, how much research you have to do. These are all factors and considerations. You have to always charge profit. Don't leave that part out. Otherwise, you're running a nonprofit. But it's trial and error, and you negotiate things with clients just like you would anything else in life, and you start out and you see how someone reacts, and then if they don't like the price, then you decide if you're willing to do it for less, and you negotiate.
Well, and I love, you describe an interaction in the book in which you were offering something and the guy goes, well, the last person just charged $10 an hour. So can you go lower than that? And you were just sort of like, eek! And you ended up having him pay even more. So would you explain a little bit about how you did that?
Oh, that guy. Oh, I have PTSD still. Yes.
I can help you with that.
It's so hard. And this is the moment everyone's worried about. Like, the client says, well, how much do you charge? And so I say, I learned from this experience, never agree to anything on the spot. You absolutely have the full authority to say, great, George, great, Martha. So here's what we're going to do next. I'm going to go back to the drawing board. I'm going to come up with a couple of different options I think would work for you. I'll email them over to you this afternoon. You now have time and space to really consider and reflect on what they said when they were talking to you that they wanted versus what they actually need, that you can read between the lines and hear what they really do need. And then you can use that to form a pitch. And I always advise pitching 3 different options. The first option is the bare basic, what they said that they need, flat up. The second option is going to be a little bit more money, and it's going to be what you read between the lines that they actually do need. And then the third option is going to be the most money that they could probably pay you to give them as much of your wisdom as possible, the full Monty. That does a couple of things. The first thing is that now you've taken the decision from being a yes or no question, should I hire this person, to, well, which one should I pick? The second thing is now it reduces your imposter syndrome because, they've got options. You're giving someone options. And the third thing it does is someone sees all of the things you actually can do that they didn't even realize you could do. And they're going to pick the bigger package probably 99% of the time.
See, this is what I wished I learned like 15 years ago, because people would be like, oh yeah, I would like some yoga sessions with you, private sessions. And I could have been like, well, also, I know about all this stuff for weight loss, and I've studied hypnosis. So I could also help you with, whatever fears you have or hang-ups you have from second grade, which is why you're doing your emotional eating or whatever it is, It's like,
yes.
I'd be like, oh, you want some yoga? Okay, once a week.
Yes, this goes back to being the leader in your field and with your ideas and saying, okay, I'm seeing this person for what they need, but here's, what they really need. You can totally read between the lines of any one of your clients for that same reason. You know what they really need, and having the courage to actually ask, do you want my help with that?
It's a beautiful thing, because then it's a one-stop shop. They don't need to be like, oh yeah, I could also use this thing. Where do I find it? You're bringing it to them. That's a huge gift.
So many times they don't even know that you can do the thing. They have no idea. And so even if you advertise it, maybe they didn't even see it. Take nothing for granted.
I love that. Take nothing for granted. You have so many fun lines in your book too. Like if you were the expert, right? How would you show up if you were the expert already? If I was the best, how would I show up?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How would you, if your demeanor changes completely from feeling like you don't belong in the room to, you know what, I'm pretty darn good at this. But again, it goes back to self-confidence. None of business
Well,
is actually business. It's all personal.
beautifully said. Yeah. And I mean, you use that F word a lot in your book. That the word feelings, really. Like it's all about the feeling you say again and again. Like what do you mean by that? Tell us about that.
Yeah, I think we make decisions oftentimes based on what makes sense. And that's a dangerous thing to be making a decision by, because what makes sense could be, okay, well, I have a background in engineering, so it makes sense for me to start consulting in that. Even if you are so over that, that doesn't make you feel alive anymore. You don't feel good doing that work anymore. But we make the decision because it makes sense, but something can make sense and still make you miserable. So I advise, if you're considering a couple of different avenues, which one feels the best? You already know the answer. You just have to have the courage to get all the logistics in place and trust yourself to do the dangerous thing.
I like the example you give in the book of that too, where you give like four options. Well, I could do this. I could like tell people or teach people about like not retreats in France, but something like that, little off the road trips in France. Or I could, do something in regard to upholstery, which I really love. Or I could do this, or I could do this, and it's like, well, you can do those other things, but it's really clear what you really love. And I think a lot of times we disregard that so much. I know I did it myself. Like I've taught yoga for almost 20 years.
Wow.
And I was like 12 when I learned to teach yoga. Just kidding. And I got in this thing where I was known as the person who could help you with your back pain, right? Like I taught back pain yoga. Lots of the people had never done yoga before, but they knew I could help them with their back. So that's why they were there. And, after a while, like I really loved it at first, and it was generative and fun and made me a lot of money. And then after a while, doing that for several years, I was like, nah, this is like, this is the same. I mean, it has little variety, but I am a person who thrives on variety. Like today, I coached someone on her book, and later I'm teaching two yoga private clients of people who are like 79 and 80. And like, I love variety. Okay. and, and so doing this back pain stuff, it's like, yeah, it generates me a lot of money, and yawn,
Yes.
and like that is something that just like, it was time to put that on the shelf for a while.
Yeah, and that takes a lot of courage to do. It takes a lot of courage to give up the money piece for a lot of people and what they know. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great that you're doing that though, but that's so much of what it is. You pick something that you are good at that you can then become known for. And then from there you iterate. Now you have traction. Now you can pivot a little bit. But starting off and trying to like do all the things all at once, it's a recipe for madness. No one can do that, and no one can become known for that. So I think you did the perfect thing.
Well, thank you. And so, when you talk about that, I love that you keep bringing it back to the feeling, because I think so often we're taught or coached, or we read to like, okay, find your niche. And the niche, they don't talk about like, well, what really lights you up? It's more like, who are your people out there first and foremost, instead of like, what's juicy for you?
Good point, Kathy. Yes, you're totally right about that. I think that making money it's really easy at the end of the day. Anyone can figure out how to make money. The hard part is figuring out how you want to be doing it. That's the work you need to be doing. The rest, you'll get all that stuff in place later. But really, what do you want to be doing? And having some patience with yourself, because It's okay if you try something new and you don't like that either. Then people start getting in their own heads because they're like, oh, I'm being flaky and why can't I decide? And something's wrong with me. Nothing is wrong with you. It's wrong. Something's wrong with the thing you tried. Just try something else and keep going.
I love that. And you talk a lot in the book about that and about being willing to quit.
Oh, yeah. Quitting is so good for you. It's upgrading. It is so healthy. We love quitters.
What a great reframe. Yeah. So can you say more about that?
Yeah, it's the healthiest thing you could do. I always say that if you haven't quit 100 times, you've just lost 100 opportunities to be happy. I don't think that it's the case that most of us are walking around and we're quitting too soon, but everyone wants to make it seem like, quitters never win and you got to stick it out. And sometimes, no, you have to cut your losses. More often than not, you have to cut your losses. I don't care if you studied for 900 years to become a doctor. If you wake up every day and you hate every moment of it, you're not losing anything by getting out of it. You're saving yourself the next 40 years of misery. This is a bargain for you. Good. Quit. You did it. Now you're not doing it anymore. How about that?
And there seems to be such a big thing in the world about, well, I didn't get that right. I didn't make the right choice. Therefore, that means this about me. Rather than, well, if we're looking for something that means something, let's find work that's meaningful for us.
Yeah, I feel so badly for anyone, especially young people today, because no one is teaching any of us about the pursuit of passion. How would any of us know how to pick a college degree with any level of authority? Like, nobody knows. None of us know ourselves. We don't know what we want to be doing. And so then you do pick because you're forced. And then, 5 or 10 years later, you're having those feelings that you're talking about, and we still internalize it and blame it on us. How are we supposed to know? It's like if you walk into a chemist and you decide to play around with some beakers and play around with some different things and you explode something, you're not going to be like, oh my God, something is wrong with me that I didn't get that right. How would you have known? How would you have known?
We're all playing around and we're all making it up as we go. And you make that pretty clear in the book too. So,
yes. Yes, it's kind of scary how much we really are all guessing at all times. Like, oh, when you're putting your trust in anyone to invest your money, for example, that's terrifying. But we're really all guessing every day.
We'll be right back, everyone. Thanks for being with me, and thanks for being with me here. So much fun.
Yay! Woo-hoo!
Sex Bomb Abundant Life. This is Kathy Williams, and I would love to invite you to just submit your ideas for the show, your questions, any of that at meetkathywilliams.com. And Kathy has a K, Williams has an S. Meet is like hello, not a slab of steak. Meetkathywilliams.com. And there I have a shop too. And by being a listener, you get 20% off in the shop if you enter the code SM Radio. So SM Radio in the shop, where you can find energy pulls. You can even get a free one by clicking the box on page 1 of the website. Free energy exercise to create your life. So love to have you there and love to hear from you, truly. And today's conversation is with Ambirge. She is the author of The Middle Finger Project, which I am dropping. And I love to open her emails. So this is one of the directions I would love to go next, where it's like, how do you write something that people will actually open almost every single time?
Thank you for that high compliment, Kathy.
I know, it's huge.
It is. That is the highest compliment because we have so much noise in our inboxes today. So to stand out, it's becoming harder and harder, and it's much more of a compliment than ever. Thank you. And the
You're so
answer,
welcome.
yeah, I mean, about writing and about being in this environment, whether it's an email subject line or you're writing something else for your sales page, your website, the key for me is to avoid any cliches possible. Our brain is programmed to use the language that first pops into our minds. That's a shortcut. So that's your brain actually trying to save energy. It's designed to do that by nature. Your brain wants to be as efficient as possible. So what ends up happening is when you're trying to express an idea or something you're feeling, you jump to the language that we've assigned to express that idea. And usually that's something that everyone uses and everyone says and everyone here, that's what leads to emails that don't get opened. Not because your idea is invalid, but because the way you're expressing it is just, the brain thinks, on the reader's brain thinks that they've already heard what you're saying because they see that one piece of language, for example, or that one cliche that you've put there. So the brain shuts down. And that is a bad thing for you.
I love that. I'm really thinking of this comment from someone the other day. I said, you know what? I'd really like to do something special for the people on my list this month. It's my birthday month. And the woman I was talking to, an assistant, she was like, Kathy, do not write, whatever you say, do not write, it's my birthday and the presents are for you. If I see that one more time, I'm just gonna like strangle somebody.
Oh, that's a great example. Yeah, it's the first thing that we want to do. So I would say that to really discipline yourself, I like to write everything down exactly how as it comes out of my head. Cliches and all, that's fine. The idea is to just express what you're thinking. Then for me, the writing process is the editing process. And I will go back and I'll say, okay, so that's really lame, just totally cliche. How can I now say that differently that's unexpected? And how can I take one concept that usually that's another shortcut? We'll say, use big universal words like happiness, right? To express a lot of ideas as one. And think about how you can actually illustrate that. What does it look like to be happy? So instead of saying, I was so happy yesterday, you say, I was skipping down the street, eating a bunch of Cheetos and laughing, in the wind, whatever. The specifics really, really make a difference.
And they do. I mean, it's what differentiates your writing from so many people. And like I said, I love to read your emails because it's just like, oh, that was funny, or oh, that was a really cool way of writing that, and yeah, it's inspired me actually. I mean, I was writing something in December, and I was like, I would love to give you a gift, and it's not this giant tacky inflatable Santa that's in my front yard. With a surfboard, and I live in Hawaii, so I took a picture of that tacky inflatable Santa and sent it to everybody.
Oh, I love it.
You inspired that. And so one of the listeners posted on Facebook, and she said she'd love to ask you, where did you learn about copywriting and who do you suggest? And first off, Ash has a course, don't you?
I do.
Right?
Yes, I give workshops often. There's not one that's evergreen, but yes, we do them. We have fun. Creative writing for the internet.
Yes, so you can check that out at themiddlefingerproject.com. And are there other people or spaces or things that really inspire you to be creative in that capacity?
Yes. So back in the day, I started my career in marketing and advertising. So that's where I got the nuts and bolts of understanding persuasion. And that is copywriting as a whole. But what I do now focuses more on creative writing because of the nature of the internet, the way the internet has changed things for us. Because you're being creative, you're automatically being persuasive in many ways because of what we're talking about. People enjoy reading and opening just because it's pleasurable to do so. So I get my best inspiration from reading other creative writers. It's just like, it feels so good. My favorite writer on the planet is Caitlin Moran of the UK. I love Caitlin's work. Every time I read something she's written, it makes me want to be a better person.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, I don't know her, so that'll be fun.
A better writer. Yes, indeed. I mean, I love anyone who traditionally takes an industry that's kind of boring and flips that on its head, even travel writer Bill Bryson, he could be writing about anything, and he's got this dry wit to him that I appreciate so much. But that's where I learned. I really learned by reading.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
yeah.
Yeah. So we'll
And by
check
practicing.
those people out. Yeah, practicing, right? I mean, just like you said, taking something, letting it come out, and then changing it to become more specific is amazing.
Yes, I think people are very impatient with themselves when it comes to writing something, oftentimes because it's a chore. So I can understand that. But I will say for me, if I'm going to write a blog post, it's going to take me no less than 2 hours from start to finish to sending it out. And that is because I do take the time. I will sit with a subject line or a headline, and I will figure out, what's the best way to approach it. I'll write a couple of versions of it. And then I'm like, that stinks. That's not right. Until I get something that I'm happy with. Most people don't have the patience to do that because they're just trying to check it off their to-do list.
So I love that. And so I can hear the two different parties. Like one is like 2 hours, that's a lot. And the other is like, how does she do that in 2 hours? I want to edit it for 40 years. Right?
Yes. So yes, something I'm very clear on and got clear on since day one, those 2 hours, that's how I make my money. That is 10,000% the value that I'm bringing to this world. I'm the product in my business. Anything that I sell is just a peripheral. But people are buying me, and they're buying my ideas and the way I'm showing up. So for me as a business owner, it's the most valuable thing that I do, even if I wasn't a writer. The other side of that is, wow, I would have kept writing that for 40 years. Yeah, that's something you have to learn how to ship and try to just say, okay, I'm going to just aim for B+. And then it's good enough. Right? Everything you do can't be A+, or you wouldn't get anything done.
Well, yeah, I love that. B+. That's amazing because it's true. And some people are going to think your B+ is A+, and some people are going to think your B+ is C, because that's just, or D or whatever, because that's just the nature of people. And I love in the book how, and it's such a great reminder that if you have ideas, you're going to offend somebody. Right? Because you're kind of like poking at their complacency, or you're poking at their, you're being different makes them feel like, oh no, isn't this just good enough? Aren't things the way they are just fine? Would you say something about being willing to rock the boat a little bit?
Sure.
I mean, obviously you're not.
Yes, but I did. I had naysayers and people who did mean very well for me, discouraging me all the same. And I think the important thing is to remember that you wouldn't go to your accountant to get your hair cut. And I think that the same logic should apply, that you might want to rethink going to your sister Sarah, who is, in like operations, for advice on your photography career. Sister Sarah means well, but she's never done it. So therefore, she's not qualified to offer you advice. So whatever she says, consider the source, consider the context.
That's a cool reminder. And it reminds me that even the woman who created the Vietnam Memorial, like, I think that idea she gave that idea in some college class or something like that. I could totally be making this up, but this is my memory. And she didn't even get an A for that idea, right?
Oh,
but that's
wow.
The one that was implemented, So it's like it's just everybody's personal perspective. That doesn't mean they're right.
It is. I talk about this every day. Every day nowadays. And this question does keep coming up, and people do feel that way. Like, well, what do I do if everyone thinks it's a bad idea? And at some point, you have to be willing to believe your own ideas over someone else's. At some point, this is not, there's nothing else you can do besides say, okay, I'm just doing the thing. Very difficult to do, but have to be willing to do it. There are so many people who don't think that your idea is a good one now, but later are going to want to know how you did it. And you have to remember that everyone has different backgrounds, different experiences that have affected their perspective and their worldview on life. And maybe their
Thank you.
uncle started a business once, for example, and it didn't go well. And so they're biased now that you shouldn't do this thing, even though you absolutely should.
We're good. Yeah. It's amazing how we're willing to listen to people who are no more qualified than we are, as though their information and advice is valuable to us.
Yeah. I mean, trust yourself. Like, trust yourself. You'll figure it out. Do the thing. Don't go into it thinking you're going to make a mistake and screw everything up and everyone else will be right about you. You have to be willing to say, you know what, I actually think I'm really excited about this thing. And that excitement is enough of a reason to pursue it. Trust in that. Trust yourself.
Well, and the beauty of that is, you know, I mean, as you mentioned in the book, things are always changing. Like, you're going to go in this direction, and that direction might give you information that informs a totally new direction tomorrow, but that information was super useful. That, you know, and it's like, we don't have to be as consistent as we think we have to be.
That's true. You're always going to be able to change, grow, adapt, learn new things about yourself that you never knew before. What a great gift that is, to be able to try something new and learn something new about yourself, something you never knew that you felt or that you thought, and all of a sudden these things are unfolding. That in and of itself is worth its weight in gold, even if the external metrics you placed around it fail, quote unquote. Go out there and engage with the world, and that's how you become the person that you want to be.
And that's how we were as children, right? It was not like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna make a turtle and then the turtle has to look great. It's like, oh, well, that turtle looks more like a moon, so I'm gonna turn it into a moon and put some stars. And, you know, like,
great point. Yes.
It's like, I think before school, we were so much more willing to muck it up and just do whatever and go with it and trust ourselves. And then there comes a point at which it's like, oh my gosh, I've got to get it right because people will judge me if I don't. And it's like, they're busy judging themselves. They might judge you, but it's not a super big deal. Like, you know, I mean, yeah.
Yeah. And the worst part is you're judging yourself too. And that's where it really gets hard. It's like you are your worst critic, your worst boss, you're all of those things. And man, give yourself a break.
So true.
Yeah, give yourself a break. Be nicer to yourself. You've never done this before, just like the chemistry experiment.
Beautiful. Well, it's been such a gift to have you on the show today, Ash. Is there anything else you just want to leave us with?
You know, I think often about the 3 words that Seth Godin, who is one of my mentors, he's an author, 3 words that he said to me that actually kicked off this book writing process. And they were 3 simple words, and they were go, go, go. That was it. And those 3 words, there's some magic in them. When you are spinning out and you look back at those 3 very simple words, it simplifies everything. Go, go, go. Just start.
Thank you, Ash. Thanks so much for being here with me on Sexy Mom Abundant Life. Super grateful.
Thank you so much, Kathy.
And the book is out. So head to themiddlefingerproject.com or buy the book on Amazon. And it's such a fun, vulnerable, and awesome read. So thank you, Ash, for that. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Have a great week. Thank you, Christopher. Awesome. Thank you, Ash.
Yay!
I appreciate it.
I'm so sorry for whatever weird audio stuff was going on there. I hope
No
that it
worries.
works out.
Yeah, I got kicked out for a second too.
Okay, let me know if you need anything from me on my end.
It's snow in Pennsylvania, so.
It actually is snowing in Pennsylvania a little bit. Yeah. Thank you so much. I have to hop on to another one now.
Perfect. Okay. Have a good one.
Last one of the day. Happy Friday.
Awesome. Aloha.
Bye, guys.
You too. Bye.